There's a rifle you can have on your porch by Friday that hits harder than a .357 Magnum. No background check, no permit, no waiting period. Nobody writes your name down anywhere. Here's the part that should sit funny with you. To walk out with a plain .22, the smallest real firearm there is, you'd stand at a counter and fill out a federal form. But the thing I just described, in most of the country, the law treats it about like a pool noodle. That gap is the whole reason this video exists. There's a class of weapons out there that are dead serious, legal to own, and take zero permission to buy. And most people have no clue they're real. Not pepper spray, not a stun gun. Weapons that put down deer, hogs, even big game, and a couple built to drive a steel shaft through a target and not much care what that target is. So I pulled the 12. We're starting with the weapon most people would laugh at, right up until they see what it can do. The pocket shot is a circular slingshot, and pocket shot actually holds the patent on the only round slingshot that can launch a full-size arrow, small enough to fit in a pocket and weighing only a few ounces. It's built around a replaceable latex pouch that can fire everything from steel shot and marbles to paintballs and hunting arrows. Snap on the Pro Arrow kit and this pocket-sized cup turns into a sling bow. The kit adds an arrow cap, whisker biscuit style rest, and arrow guiding system that lets it shoot standard full-length arrows with surprising consistency. It fires steel and marbles at up to 350 FPS, and it'll send a full-length hunting arrow downrange at right around 180 FPS off a roughly 40-pound draw. Now, let's be clear about what that is and isn't. It's not stopping a determined attacker across a room, but an arrow is an arrow. Slip a broadhead on the front, and this palm-sized gadget will take small game, and it'll do real, dangerous damage to anything soft it hits. For the price of a cheap dinner, you've got a compact arrow launcher that disappears into a jacket pocket, weighs next to nothing, and can launch both arrows and high-speed projectiles from the same platform. Most people picture a blowgun as a skinny tube that fires a needle you'd barely feel. Cold Steel went the other direction. Their big bore runs a massive .625 Magnum caliber barrel. That's a heavy fat dart most blowguns can't touch. Built from lightweight aluminum with a non-slip rubber ferrule and an ergonomic mouthpiece, it's designed to be surprisingly durable for something this simple. Here's what that bore actually buys you. Effective range out to 20 yards or more. With practice, a skilled shooter can stack darts inside a 2-inch circle at distance, and the payload will punch clean through a 1/2-inch sheet of plywood. Cold Steel builds it in 4-foot and 5-foot lengths, including a 2-piece version that breaks down for transport. And it ships with a mouthpiece, a quiver, dart guard, and 3 dozen darts, stun, mini broadhead, and bamboo. What sells it for this list is the silence. There's no report, no muzzle flash, nothing, just air and impact. Despite its simplicity, the oversized bore delivers considerably more energy than a traditional blowgun, giving the heavy darts far more authority on target. It's genuinely effective for small game hunting, and a broadhead dart is nothing to shrug at. It won't replace a firearm, and I'm not going to pretend it will, but it's silent, compact, easy to carry, and capable of driving a surprisingly large dart with real penetration. That's a serious tool hiding inside what most people dismiss as a novelty. Now we stop launching things and start swinging them. The SOG Tactical Tomahawk is built off the Vietnam-era Hawk, and it is not a decoration. You get a 420 stainless steel head with a hard-cased coating, run to a Rockwell hardness in the low 50s, bolted onto a glass-reinforced nylon handle with a steel ferrule for stability. Overall, it's 15.75 inches, the head weighs a solid 24 ounces, and it carries a 2.75-inch edge on the front with a nasty spike on the back. Owners throw these things thousands of times and they hold up. For close quarters, that combination is brutal. The edge chops, the spike punches, and the weight behind the head means every hit lands with authority. You can bury it in a door, a wall, or a target at range, then walk over and pull it back out. It's short enough to swing fast inside a hallway, and heavy enough that it doesn't just cut, it wrecks. This is the first item on the list that's flat out designed around doing damage to a person, and it does the job in total silence. If the Tomahawk is about getting close, The boar spear is about the opposite, keeping the threat at the far end of a very long, very sharp stick. Cold Steel's boar spear is a modern rebuild of a Renaissance-era hunting weapon. The head is cold forged from SK5 medium carbon steel and heat-treated to a spring temper, so it flexes under stress instead of snapping. It's a wide, leaf-shaped blade with a reinforcing rib for stiffness, and a crossguard at the base. That crossguard was built to stop a charging boar from running up the shaft and getting to you. The whole thing rides on a stout American ash shaft, runs about 82 inches overall, and weighs in around 4¼ pounds. Think about what that means in a doorway. You've got over 6½ feet of reach and a broad blade meant to open a large wound fast on an unarmored target. Whether it's 4-legged or 2-legged, it keeps danger at arm's length, plus the length of a spear. It's medieval, it's simple, and it will absolutely end a confrontation. Nobody expects to meet a spear in a modern home. That's exactly why it works. Here's the wild card, and it's the one nobody puts on a home defense list. A spear gun. Stay with me. The JBL Woody Magnum is built from a solid African mahogany blank, CNC machined for a precise fit, driving a hand-tuned 17-4 heat-treated stainless steel spear shaft. It's powered by thick 9/16" rubber bands, 2 or 3 depending on the model, and at the heart of it sits the M10 3-piece trigger, a laser-cut stainless mechanism rated to hold back 2,400 pounds of pressure while still braking at under 8. Depending on the model, effective reach runs out past 20 feet. That is a genuinely lethal amount of force behind a steel spear tipped with a breakaway or rock point. It's built to punch through a fish and lock in with barbs, and physics doesn't care whether the target has scales. It's completely legal, needs no license, and yes, you can order one online. Is it your first pick for the bedroom? No. But it is a silent, band-powered spear launcher that most people never even consider a weapon, and that's the entire point of this list. If a revolver in a science fiction prop had a child, it would probably look like this. The 6 Needler is a CO2-powered revolver that fires thin, pointed 9mm needles, and there's nothing else on this list quite like it. It runs on a standard 12-gram CO2 cartridge, feeds from a removable 6-shot cylinder, and pushes those needles out at around 308 FPS. On paper, that's not a huge energy number. In practice, the needle design concentrates every bit of that force onto a tiny point, and the results are genuinely unsettling. Owners have driven these needles clean through 3/4-inch plywood, through fiberglass signs, and reviewers have punched them into bone. One buyer put a needle so deep into their garage wall, they couldn't pull it back out with vice grips. That's really what makes the 6 Needler so unusual. It sits in a category all by itself, far more serious than most people expect, yet not quite what comes to mind when you think of a traditional firearm. Powered by an inexpensive CO2 cartridge and selling for roughly the price of a budget pocket knife collection, it has a way of catching people off guard. At first, it looks like a novelty. Then you see what those steel needles can do, and the conversation changes very quickly. The first few weapons on this list make you raise an eyebrow. This one makes you pay attention. The Huben GK1 takes the guts of Huben's legendary K1 rifle and crams them into a pistol, and that's where things get interesting. This is a pre-charged pneumatic pistol, which means it runs on compressed air stored at up to 5,000 pounds per square inch in an 85 cubic centimeter onboard cylinder. A regulated air system helps deliver consistent performance, while a side lever action feeds a non-removable auto-rotating magazine that holds 19 shots in .22. Built on a compact platform, roughly 13 inches long, and weighing under 3 pounds, it includes a built-in pressure gauge and accessory rails for optics and upgrades. The power is fully adjustable. Dial it down for plinking or crank it up when it counts. In .22, it launches slugs at up to 918 feet per second and produces up to 33 foot-pounds of energy. Step up to .25 and you're pushing 40 foot-pounds. All of that performance lives inside a pistol with a walnut grip, semi-automatic action, and a shot count that can be tailored by adjusting the power setting. 33 to 40 foot-pounds out of a pistol with no powder involved. That's real power in a compact platform, and it's one of the reasons the GK1 has developed such a reputation among serious airgun shooters. Remember that 33 foot-pound number, because from here on, that meter only goes one direction. The next weapon exists because someone looked at a compound bow and decided one arrow at a time wasn't enough. The Fenris isn't a bow, and it isn't a crossbow. It's a 5-arrow magazine that mounts to a modern compound bow, an idea first conceived by German inventor Jörg Sprave, before Steambow turned it into a real product. Here's how it works. The magazine holds 5 carbon arrows and auto-loads the next one every time you draw the bow. Because it's machined to such tight tolerances out of CNC hard anodized aluminum, the bow draws to the exact same point every single time, which makes you accurate almost instantly. And the rate of fire is the payoff. You can empty all 5 arrows in under 5 seconds without taking a hand off the bow. There's even a built-in indicator so you feel when you're on your last shot. Now, the power. The Fenris itself has no set energy figure. It borrows whatever the host bow gives it, and it'll run on a draw weight anywhere from 17 up to 70 pounds. Mounted on a full 70-pound compound, and you are firing broadhead arrows with genuine deer-dropping energy, 5 of them, faster than you could reload a crossbow. And legally, it still counts as a vertical bow. That's a serious loophole hiding in plain sight. If a machete and a sword had a very aggressive child, it would probably look like this. Half machete, half sword. The design leans into that on purpose. Cold Steel's two-handed katana machete pairs a 24-inch blade made from 1055 high-carbon steel with a long polypropylene handle, finished with a modern Tanto-style point and a black anti-rust coating. The full package weighs about 34 ounces, and the long handle is the real trick. Choke up near the crossguard and you get tighter, more controlled cuts. Slide your grip to the very end and you unlock maximum reach and swing speed. The length does much of the work for you. The 1055 steel is heat-treated to handle repeated impact, making it well-suited for hard use without constant maintenance. Combining sword-like reach, machete-grade toughness, and a protective crossguard that keeps your hands safely behind the edge, this aggressive hybrid slashes, chops, and thrusts with authority, making it easy to see why it has earned such a loyal following. The AirSaber is what happens when you take the power of a pre-charged pneumatic rifle and point it at an arrow instead of a pellet. No string, no limbs, just compressed air driving a full-size bolt downrange. Built on a platform that weighs about 6 pounds and stretches roughly 41 inches long, it uses a straight pull bolt action, an onboard pressure gauge, and a Picatinny rail for optics. Driven off a tank charged to 3,625 pounds per square inch, it launches a 376 grain arrow at up to 450 feet per second and generates more than 169 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. That's more than enough for big game, and with an effective hunting range that can reach well beyond typical bow distances, it's easy to see why the platform has developed such a following. And this isn't just a paper claim. One owner used an AirSaber on a night hunt to kill a 7-foot alligator with a single arrow through the neck, then went on to take an 11-footer with the same platform. You get roughly 25 full-power shots per fill, and the entire setup costs a fraction of what many comparable crossbow rigs command. Look at how far we've come. We started at 180 FPS with a pocket slingshot. We're now at more than 169 foot-pounds of energy, driving a broadhead through big game. No powder, no license, and this one you really can order on Amazon. And it's still not the most powerful thing on this list. We've finally arrived at the weapon that kicked off this entire list, the Umarex Hammer, an air rifle that pushes the limits of what most people think compressed air can accomplish. It's a .50 caliber, big bore pre-charged pneumatic rifle, a true .510 bore, built in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Fed from a 4,500 pound force per square inch carbon fiber cylinder through a patent-pending valve, it drives a 550 grain lead slug at 760 foot-pounds per second. That works out to roughly 705 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. It runs a 2-shot magazine off a straight pull bolt, so you've got a fast follow-up, and it'll put 3 full-power shots downrange before the velocity even starts to dip. Now, let's cash in the promise from the top. A common 9mm defensive round makes somewhere around 350 to 400 foot-pounds. A .45 lands in the same neighborhood, 355 to 450. The Hammer makes 705. That means this legal, no license, no gunpowder air rifle produces more muzzle energy than the handgun cartridges most of the country carries for defense. This isn't a plinker that punches above its weight. It's been used to harvest American bison and even Cape buffalo, one of the most dangerous animals on the planet. One straight answer, because your sharp-eyed viewers will ask it. The Hammer's .510 bore is technically over half an inch, which is the line the Federal Destructive Device Rule talks about. But that rule was written around explosive and powder-driven weapons, and the ATF treats big-bore air rifles as non-firearms, which is exactly why the Hammer sells on the open market with no paperwork. Federally, no gunpowder means it isn't a firearm, so there's no license and no background check to own one. That's your number one, the single most powerful legal weapon on this list, and it doesn't burn a grain of powder to do it. That's the 12. Some of these you can carry in a pocket, some you keep bolted by the door, but every single one of them buys you the thing that actually matters in an invasion: time. If one of these surprised you, tell me which one in the comments. I answer them, and half of what ends up on this channel comes from arguments people win down there. Check your local laws before you buy, because 2 of these are restricted in states I mention in the description. Subscribe if you want the next one, where I test what actually survives a real hit and what's just marketed to look tough. Lock your door. See you next time.